So many people in the RoboCraft community know about the update that dropped, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. I'm a little bit late to the party purely because I had a lot of exams and then I was sick, but I'm alright now, I'm recording this video. But that brought us the Proto-Seeker, brand new weapon. I'm just showing you the model on screen right now. I think it looks quite cool. The model's still up on Sketchfab, so I'll have a link to that in the description if you want to see the model yourself. But here is the Proto-Seeker itself. But first, I'm going to get right in. I'm going to be doing a full review on how to use it, like best tips for use, guide to using it. But anyway, let's just get straight into this. First, we're just going to crunch the numbers. So when we have the Proto-Seeker here, side by side with its closest comparable thing, which is the laser disintegrator, you can see there's a lot of stuff different. It's a lot heavier on your ranking, 100 P-flops each, so it's quite heavy in your CPU. Unless you have a high CPU limit or you're very high level, you're not going to be having very many of these. As you can see, it doesn't do that much damage per hit when you compare it, but it has 4 times the fire rate and quarter the damage, so you will do the same amount of damage as one laser disintegrator compared to one Proto-Seeker. Obviously, as you get more guns, the ratio tips more in favor of the SMG, but the one very special thing to know is that little extra at the bottom for the Proto-Seekers, the special, that it does extra damage to shield. That's almost become integral to how we use this weapon later on. So the Proto-Seeker is a support class weapon. Of the 2 classes that there are in RoboCraft, how I like to classify them, definitely a support class weapon, which means you're not going to be getting the kill with it, you're purely just going to be streaming loads of damage at them. I took this into a TDM with my bot, the Lazarus, which is on screen right now during the gameplay. I challenged myself to go into a TDM and only use the Proto-Seekers. I got 1 kill, but I did get lots of points purely because I just kept streaming damage at people. So I have gone into the test arena multiple times with Proto-Seeker and I've been able to compile a list of just all the priority targets for the weapon, just using experiences that I've found from the testing. And obviously this is where the extra shield damage comes into play. So obviously first thing on the list is going to be bots that rely heavily on electroplates and electro shields for defense. Like Cluely-Balls, that's probably the best example. I'll just have some examples on screen now. But Cluely-Balls, this thing will shred through them purely because of the extra damage multiplier it does to them. And just any bot that relies a lot on electroplates, like mech legs, that's also a good target for them purely because a lot of their defense is shielding. They may be quite heavy, but while they have 2,000 health themselves, they have about 50,000 shield to compensate for that. So the Proto-Seekers can just rip through the shields and then you can switch to another weapon and just take out their legs and boom, done. And then the next thing on the list is any high priority equipment like rotor blades, modules, and any stuff like that. So guns, maybe if you've got Lommel or a flak cannon, the Proto-Seekers will target that. Just keep it in mind that it has no smart targeting. If you're against a helicopter wall, your Proto-Seekers aiming for the helicopter blades, it won't go over the wall to hit the blades, it will just tear straight through the wall. Then obviously at the last there's going to be the armor cubes themselves, which like almost no priority. Like once it's run out of functional past the target, it just targets the center of mass. So all in all, what is my final verdict on this weapon? How are the tips for using it? Honestly, I think it's a little bit overpriced. It's 2.5 million per gun, but if you can get the money for it and you can afford it, I still think it's worth the money, even if it is a little bit overpriced. Hopefully they should fix that at some point. It definitely adds some variety. It's definitely the most easy weapon to use by far. So far as to call, even Free Jam have called it the noob's weapon of choice. But honestly, my tips for using it, just have one weapon and use it as a secondary, because as you can see there with the stats, the nominal fire rate is 20 per second with 5 guns, and honestly that doesn't change much from the 16 per second with 1 gun. So I just prefer to use it as a secondary, and it doesn't cost nearly as much CPU as it would. My Lazarus, it has 1 Proto-Seeker. It does perfectly well. It's on the top CPU limit. Free Jam had more CPU now, but it performs really well. It's a good all-round bot. One thing it's very good for is denying regen. So you can use this to just guarantee damage over any long distance. If you see a bot that's wounded on the enemy team, if you can, see if you can just land a couple of shots, because even 1 shot of the Proto-Seeker can just reset their regen timer. It could be really annoying, so eventually you can finish them off, which is really good for TDM. There you go, guys. That is my verdict on the Proto-Seeker. I still think it's a good weapon, just a bit overpriced, but there you go. My verdict on the Proto-Seeker, and I hope you guys enjoyed.